discussion is what is the difference between segregation and integration? Because they're not the same things. Then we need to talk about legal segregation versus people coming together voluntarily.
I know, I heard it at the beginning. They're arguing about this.
That's a good argument.
That must be the prayer room.
That's an interesting argument. Okay, so let's deal with the first part. And then there's 3 or 4 other things I want to talk about. Okay, the first thing is that we from a contextual framework, segregation is the shuffling of bodies. Integration is bringing those bodies together from a point of equity. So that just because you shuffle bodies, it doesn't mean that you now have integration. What you have technically is desegregation. Now, if you deal, so let's go back and talk about education, and let's use Brown 1 and Brown 2, okay? Because, no, let's go back further than that. Let's go back to the Freedmen's Bureau. Because if we go back to the Freedmen's Bureau, then the thing that we understand very clearly is it was not white people who demanded public education. It was black people. It was ex-slaves who made the demand for public education through the Freedmen's Bureau. So public schools were created in the South. Black public schools, because legally black people and white people couldn't go to the same schools. Then in 1877, when the Missouri Compromise took place, and people restored power to the white people that ostensibly we fought the Civil War to take out of power, they made a decision that they wanted to give public schools to small white planters. And the only way to do that, in their mind, was to take the money from the black schools and give it to the white schools that black people couldn't attend. And so what you had was black people being double taxed. And so what black people then had to do was to form our own schools. And so the message there already in America was, if black people put all of their eggs in any one basket, we gonna get screwed. That's how I read that. So once you understand that history, you understand that at different points in time, we have fought different battles. But our battles have never been, for most of us, about being with white people. Now, there's a group of us who wanted to be with white people, But there's a group of us who thought you need to be with white people in order to get the resources you need to advance ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? But there's another group of us who just felt you need to be with white people. Because that's fine. So they want to do that. So if you take that idea into Brown 1 and Brown 2, the first thing you need to do is read Brown 1. And you need to read footnote 11. Because footnote 11 has all of the social science data that was used as a basis for reaching the conclusions that people reached with Brown 1. And if you read the wording carefully, what it basically says is anything that is all black is by definition inferior. And the studies that they use, like Usabel stuff and Gerner Murdoch stuff, and reading American Dilemma, there's a section in there where Gerner Murdoch describes the black community as being pathological. And so there's a whole discussion about the impact of integrating and what, quote, integration would mean if one community is pathological. So it's all of that social science data that led to the way that Brown 1 was described. And then Brown 2 came along and said, hey, wait a minute now, we got to do this with all deliberate speed. And what that did was to give people a way to start trying to figure out how to make this integration thing happen in a way that would fundamentally benefit white people. We got to do it. But we got to do it in a way that is going to cause the least amount of political damage. Now, to their credit, people went forward with it, although there were tremendous amounts of resistance from white people to this. But I'm telling you all of this because I don't think you can have an integration, segregation, desegregation discussion without understanding the historical underpinnings to what it is that we're now engaged in. Okay, so fast forward to Milwaukee. In Milwaukee, we had a suit for integration. And in this suit, basically what happened, Lloyd Barbie, God bless his soul, believed in integration. I mean, because Lloyd got up at a meeting once when I was in and said he would not join the black YWCA. Because to join the black YWCA was just terrible, because you shouldn't have a black YWCA. You should just have a YWCA, which is really sort of how we talk if we think that we ought to have a colorless America. Except in reality, there ain't gonna never be no colorless America. And my question is, why would you even want to have it? And so then you get into what do you call it? You get into a stew versus just all of a sudden you can't tell the difference versus something where there's like some onions and, you know, beef if you eat that, or turkey. So you can see like you get a melting pot versus like a stew. And I'm the stew group, because my view is we ought to all be in this together. But even though we're all in it together, there's nothing wrong with like maintaining individual identity within the context of being in it all together. And in fact, what makes it so much more flavorful is the existence of these differences, but within the context of a similar view or a common notion of where we're trying to get to. Now, if you hold that thought for a moment, what happened in Milwaukee was, and I did my dissertation on the discriminatory implementation of desegregation. And clearly what I proved, and I challenged all of them to debate me, and none of them would, that we developed an integration program that was put on the backs of black children. And that what happened was they would go into a community like this one and bus black kids to over 100 different elementary schools throughout the city, quote, for integration. They built schools so that white people, if they had to move, I called it sideways movement. You know, in other words, what they would do is, if say, there's like, here's the black community here, right? Okay, these are two black communities. These are two white communities. Okay. Now, what they did for white people was, if you had a school here and this was a neighborhood school, they built another neighborhood school like right here. So they could say, we're gonna bust you. But hell, they only bust them a couple blocks. What they did here, they didn't build nothing. So what happened here was you had to go way out here in order to get to a school, okay? And then the white people said, going back to Gurney Murdoch, you think we're going into we ain't going into these black people's places. The only way we're going to black community is if you close the school, get rid of all of those incorrigible poor black people, create a magnet school, a theme school, and then we'll come in there. But now when we come in there, we gotta come in there like this. One of us, a half of y'all. Another one of us, a half of y'all. Because, why? Because a school is integrated if it's 75% white and 25% black. It ain't integrated if it's 75% black and 25% white, okay? And I actually found documents when I did my dissertation where the school district said, our role is to give white people the psychological guarantee that they will never have to go to a school that is predominantly black. Okay, I found it. People mad at me because I found it. I got it. Got it documented, still got it in my house. So if you think about all of that, right, and then you say, okay, after all this integration took place, how come when we found the data, there wasn't a single school, not a single high school in the entire city where black kids had a grade point average over a D. And then in every elementary school, there was a gap between black kids and white kids, test-wise. Okay, now, so you take all of that,